That evening, when my son shouted, "Leave now, Mom. My fiancé doesn't want you here," in front of 200 people, I knew there are some words that stay with you forever. My name is Margaret. I'm 57 years old, and this is how a wedding broke our family apart, but also changed my life. It was supposed to be a special day. We had been preparing for months. The outdoor garden was decorated with white flowers everywhere. The music had been playing since evening. The tables had cloth covers that I sewed by hand during many sleepless nights. Everything looked beautiful. My son Daniel was getting married to Sarah, that woman with pale eyes and a distant smile who showed up 2 years before and changed our lives. I wore the dark blue dress my mother wore at my wedding. I put my hair up nicely. I wanted to look good and respectable, like a groom's mother should. When I walked into the reception area, Sarah looked at me. She said nothing. She just whispered something to Daniel. He walked up to me fast, his face tight. I recognized that look. It was the same expression he had as a child when he knew he'd messed up but didn't want to say it. "Mom," he said quietly, "Sarah says your dress is taking too much attention. The blue color is too bright." I felt like someone hit me in the chest, but I stayed calm. "It's okay, son. I can change if you want." I brought another dress in the car. "No, Mom." His voice got harder. "It's better if you just leave." "What?" "Sarah is very stressed. She says you make her uncomfortable, that you've always looked down on her." The hall was crowded. Music was playing. People were talking, not noticing what was happening just 10 feet from the main table. "Daniel, I'm your mother. I helped organize this wedding. I paid for half of everything. And you think that gives you the right to ruin my wife's day?" he yelled. Everyone stopped talking. All eyes turned to us. Then he said it clearly, in front of everyone. "Leave, Mom. My fiancé doesn't want you here." Something inside me shattered. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just nodded, picked up my bag, and walked to the exit. Nobody tried to stop me. Nobody came after me. I got in my car and drove back to the property. The keys were hanging around my neck like always. Those keys my father gave me before he passed away, along with the land, the house, the family history of 4 generations. The same keys Daniel had been wanting ever since he got engaged to Sarah. I arrived home. I took off the blue dress. I folded it carefully and put it away. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, when the phone rang and I saw his name, I knew things were about to get worse. I took a breath and answered. "Sometimes we trust the wrong people. Have you been let down by someone you cared about?" "Mom." His voice sounded tired on the phone. "Can you come to the property? We need to talk." I hung up without answering. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. The same coffee I used to make for Daniel when he was young, and woke up early to help me with the horses. Because that's how it used to be. Before Sarah, my son, and I were close. After his father died 15 years ago, it was just the 2 of us and the property. We survived together. Daniel was 12 years old when I became a widow. He was a quiet boy with big hands and sad eyes who tried to be strong for me. "Mom, I can fix the gate," he would say, carrying tools too heavy for him. "No, sweetheart, you're still a child." "Not anymore, Mom. I'm the man of the house now." And he tried. He really tried. We grew up on this land together. He learned to manage the cattle, fix equipment, deal with suppliers when I didn't have energy. He held me when I cried at night, when I missed his father so much I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Everything will be okay, Mom. I promise." And he kept that promise. He became a man here, inside these old walls, under these oak trees that my grandfather planted. When he finished college in the city, he came back. "Mom, my place is here with you." Hearing that made me so happy. We worked together every day. I handled the finances. He took care of the animals. In the evening, we sat outside watching the sunset with coffee and a snack. "You know, Mom," he would say, "one day my kids will grow up here like I did. They'll run around these same fields. They'll learn to ride the same horses. I hope so, sweetheart. I hope you find a woman who loves this place like we do. He would smile. I will. I promise. But that's not what happened. He met Sarah at a bar in downtown Chicago during a work meeting. She was a successful, modern businesswoman. She wore high heels and expensive perfume. She talked about money and profits. The first time he brought her to the property, I saw the disappointment on her face. You live here? She asked, looking at the old walls, the dark furniture, the black and white photos of my grandparents. We live here, Daniel corrected her. It's beautiful, isn't it? Sarah smiled, but her eyes told a different story. From that day, everything changed. Daniel started coming home late. He stopped sitting with me outside. He talked about selling cattle, about updating things, about turning the property into a business location. Mom, Sarah has good ideas. We could make a lot of money. This isn't a business, Daniel. It's our home. It's both, Mom. And we need to be realistic. That word, realistic. He never used it before. The keys hung around my neck. The same ones my father gave me before he died, with tears in his eyes. Margaret, this land is your inheritance. Don't let anyone take it from you. Not even your son. At that time, I didn't understand why he said that. Now I did. The phone rang again. It was Daniel. This time I answered. Mom, please. I need the keys. His voice sounded different. Colder. Like someone reading from a script. Why do you need them, Daniel? Silence. I heard voices in the background. A woman's voice. Sarah. Sarah, and I want to make some changes. Update things a little. Maybe redesign the main living area. Replace the old furniture. That old furniture was made by your great-grandfather with his own hands. Mom, please don't start. Yesterday was enough drama. Drama? You threw me out of your wedding, and I'm the dramatic one? You chose to wear that dress knowing. Daniel, that was your grandmother's dress. The same one she wore when she married your grandfather on this same property you now want to redesign. Another silence. Longer. Mom, things change. Traditions change. Sarah is right. We can't live in the past. Sarah is right. Those 3 words started to define my son after he met her. When are you coming back? I asked, trying to change the subject. That's the thing, Mom. Sarah and I aren't going to live there anymore. We're staying in the city apartment. It's easier for her work. I felt like someone took the air from my lungs. But you said you'd raise your children here. That this was your home. It is. But I also need to build my own life with my wife. My wife. He didn't say her name with love anymore. He said it like signing a contract. So, why do you need the keys? Because legally it's my house too, Mom. Dad left it to me in the will. 50% for you, 50% for me. There it was. The truth. His father did leave him half the property. But the keys, the control, the management, he left that to me. With a specific rule, Margaret will decide the future of the property as long as she is alive and mentally capable. Daniel will only receive his share when she decides. My husband knew me. He knew I would never sell. He knew I would protect this land, even from our son, if I had to. The keys stay with me, Daniel. Mom, don't be childish. We just want to make a few changes. Maybe rent the property for events, weddings, birthday parties. We could make extra money. Turn our home into a business. That's an opportunity. Sarah already talked to a builder. We could expand the garden, add a new patio, put in an air-conditioned event room. No, Daniel. This house is not for sale. It's not available. It's not a project. But it's mine too. That scream. That tone. It was a stranger's voice. Your father left you this land to protect it, not to profit from it. My father's dead, Mom. He's been dead for 15 years. And you keep living like he's coming back tomorrow. I stayed quiet. His words cut deep. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean, yes, you did. My voice came out calm. Too calm. And that's fine. You're right. Your father is dead. And I've lived all these years taking care of what he loved, what he built, what he dreamed for you. Mom, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's time for everyone to live their own lives. What do you mean? I mean the keys stay with me. The property remains my responsibility. And you can build the life you want somewhere else. Are you kicking us out?
No.
I'm giving you what you asked for. Your space. Your independence. Your own life. I heard Sarah talking in the background, pushing annoyed. Daniel answered her quietly. Mom, Sarah says you're being selfish, that you're holding on to material things. Daniel, I interrupted. Yesterday, when you yelled at me in front of all those people, when you told me to leave your wedding, there was a woman sitting near me. I didn't know her, but before I left, she took my hand and said something. Do you know what she said? What? She said, Ma'am, when a son chooses between his mother and his wife, he's already made his choice. And you must respect that. But you must also respect yourself. Mom, it's not a competition between you and Sarah.
No, sweetheart.
It's not. Because in a competition, both sides want to win. And I don't want to compete anymore. I just want peace. And the keys. I touched the necklace where they hung. Cold, heavy, full of history. The keys stay where they've always been. With me. Until the right moment comes. And when will that be? When you have a heart that deserves them. I hung up before he could answer. I sat in the kitchen for hours. The coffee got cold. The afternoon shadows filled the house. I walked through the empty rooms. I touched the old walls. I looked at the photographs.
My father in his cowboy hat.
My mother with her silk shawl. Daniel as a child on his first horse. In my husband's office, on the wooden desk, was the last letter he wrote me before he died. I had read it so many times, I knew every word. Margaret, my love, if you're reading this, I'm no longer with you. Forgive me for leaving you alone with so much responsibility. Take care of the land. Take care of our son. But above all, take care of yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are. The strongest woman I've ever known. I love you always. That night, for the first time in 15 years, I didn't cry for my dead husband. I cried for my living son. Because there are pains worse than death. Like watching someone you love become someone you don't recognize. The keys hung around my neck. And I knew I would soon have to use them in a way I never imagined. Have you ever had to choose between love and self-respect? 3 days passed without Daniel calling. 3 days when I woke up expecting to see his truck coming up the dirt road. 3 days when I made extra coffee, just in case. 3 days when I caught myself checking the phone every half hour. On the 4th day, I decided pride wasn't worth more than my son. I called him. Mom. Daniel. My voice shook. Can we talk? Silence. I heard him speak to someone else.
To her.
Sure, Mom. Tell me. Not on the phone. Come home. I'll make dinner. You and Sarah. I want to start over. More silence. Whispered voices in the background. Sarah says she doesn't know if that's a good idea. I swallowed hard. Please, son.
Let me make this right.
Let me get to know her better. Maybe I haven't been fair to her. The words hurt to say because I didn't believe them. But I needed to. Really, Mom? Really?
Come tomorrow.
I'll make meatloaf, the one you like, and apple pie for dessert. I heard his voice soften. My boy was still there somewhere. All right. We'll come tomorrow around 7. Perfect. I'll be waiting. I hung up and looked at the kitchen. The old stove where my mother taught me to cook. The clay pots I got from my grandmother. The painted tiles we brought from Florida when we got married. Was I really willing to give in? Trade my peace for his presence?
Yes.
Because that's what mothers do. We bend. We break. but we don't let go. I spent the whole next day preparing dinner. I made the dough by hand. I cooked the meat low and slow. I set the dining table with the embroidered cloth, wax candles, the china plates we only used for special occasions. I put on a simple beige dress. Nothing that could take attention from anyone. I put my hair up. I wore the pearl earrings my husband gave me on our 10th anniversary. The keys hung around my neck, hidden under the dress. At 7 minutes to 7, they arrived. When I saw Daniel's truck park in front, my heart raced like a child waiting for her father. How pathetic, I thought. But I couldn't help it. I went outside to greet them. Daniel got out first. White shirt, dark jeans, his hair slicked back. He looked handsome. He looked different, like an actor playing my son. Sarah got out next. A tight wine-colored dress, high heels, straight perfect hair, perfect makeup. She carried a designer bag and her phone. "Good evening, Margaret," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sarah, thanks for coming. Please come in." Daniel gave me a quick kiss on the cheek.
Forced.
"Smells good, Mom. It's your favorite. Meatloaf." They came inside. Sarah looked around with that look I knew. Judging. Like she was calculating the value of everything. "How quaint," she finally said. "The house is 120 years old," I explained, closing the door. "My great-grandfather built it when he bought this land."
Wow.
"It definitely has character." They sat in the living room while I finished up. From the kitchen, I could hear them talking quietly. Nervous laughs. Awkward silences. When I came back with iced tea, Sarah was taking photos of the living room with her phone. "Do you like the decor?" I asked, trying to sound friendly. "Oh yes. It's very authentic. I was just taking pictures to send to my cousin. She loves vintage style." Vintage. Like my life was a trend. "Dinner is ready. Come to the dining room." We sat at the long wooden table. Daniel in his usual spot on my right. Sarah across from him. I served the plates carefully, making sure everything looked perfect. "Enjoy," I said, sitting down. Daniel tasted the meatloaf. He closed his eyes.
God, Mom.
"Nobody makes meatloaf like you." I smiled. For the first time in days, something felt normal. "I'm glad you like it, sweetheart." Sarah took a small bite.
Chewed slowly.
Put her fork down. "It's good, but I can't eat too much seasoning. It bothers my stomach." "It doesn't have too much seasoning," I said. "But I can bring you something else if—" No. It's fine. I'll eat what I can." Silence. The clock ticked loudly. "Well," I finally said, "I wanted you to come, because I want to apologize." Daniel looked up. Sarah did too. "I was unfair to both of you. At your wedding. With everything. This is your life, your marriage, and I need to learn to respect that." The words came out stiff. Rehearsed. Sarah smiled for the first time. A real smile. "Thank you, Margaret. That means a lot. To us." Daniel took my hand. "Mom, I went too far too. I shouldn't have yelled at you. Especially not in front of everyone. It's over, son. The important thing is moving forward." "Exactly," Sarah added. "Moving forward. New beginnings." We toasted with iced tea, like a normal family. Like nothing had happened. After dinner, while I was serving the apple pie, Sarah stood up.
"Excuse me.
I need to use the restroom." "Of course. Second door on the left." She left. Daniel and I were alone. "Mom, thank you for doing this. I know it wasn't easy." "Nothing is easy when it comes to you, sweetheart. But it's always worth it." He smiled.
My boy.
Still there. "Sarah is a good woman, Mom. You just need to get to know each other better." "I know. And I'm going to try." "Really?"
We talked for a while.
He told me about their honeymoon in California, about plans for the apartment, about a new job Sarah got at a big company. Everything sounded perfect. Too perfect. Sarah was taking a long time. Is your wife all right?
I asked.
She's probably fixing her makeup. You know how women are. I stood up. I'll check if she needs anything. I walked down the hallway. The bathroom door was open. Empty. Sarah? Silence. I kept walking. I passed my husband's office. The door was slightly open. I pushed it. Sarah was inside with her back to me, phone held up. She was taking pictures of the desk, the drawers, the documents. Sarah. She turned around, startled. Her face went pale for a second, but she recovered quickly. Oh, Margaret. You scared me. She laughed nervously.
Sorry.
I just saw this room, and it looked so interesting. All these old things. Is this your husband's office? It was. Of course. Sorry. She put the phone in her bag. It has really nice things. I love vintage. There was that word again. This room is usually locked. The door was open. I thought I could look. Sorry.
Yes.
Don't worry. Let's go back to Daniel. We returned to the dining room. Sarah sat down like nothing happened, smiling, relaxed. But I wasn't. We finished dessert with surface conversation. Sarah complimented the house 3 more times. Daniel talked about helping me with property maintenance. Maybe we could hire someone to paint the outside walls, Mom. They look a little worn. They have that color because it's a special lime paint. That's how it was done before. But we could update it. Give it a more modern look. Modern. Contemporary. Vintage. All words that meant the same thing. Your life is old. They left at 10. Thanks for dinner, Mom. It was delicious. Anytime. This is your home. Sarah hugged me. A cold, calculated hug. Thank you for giving us another chance, Margaret. It means a lot. I watched them drive away. The truck's lights disappeared in the trees. I closed the door. I walked straight to the office. On the desk, the documents my husband organized were now moved slightly. Almost impossible to notice. But I knew every inch of that space. Someone had gone through them. I opened the main drawer. The property documents were there.
The will.
The land titles. Everything was in order. But something was missing. The yellow envelope. The envelope where my husband kept an important letter. A letter he made me promise I'd only open if someone ever tried to take the property from me. I searched every drawer, every shelf, behind the books. It wasn't there. A chill ran down my back. I touched the keys around my neck. And for the first time, I understood I wasn't being paranoid. I was being watched, studied, measured to see how much longer I'd be in the way of someone else's plans. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the office with the lights off, looking out the window, and I wondered how much time I had before they tried to take everything from me. The next morning, I decided to search the whole house for the yellow envelope. I checked every closet, every box in the attic, every corner where my husband might have hidden it. Nothing. I was about to give up when the doorbell rang. It was Mr. Thompson, our family lawyer, a 70-year-old man with a white mustache and a neat suit that always smelled of pipe tobacco. Mrs. Margaret, good morning. May I come in? Mr. Thompson, what a surprise. Of course, come in. We went to the living room. I poured him coffee. He sat down with that serious look lawyers have when the news is bad. Margaret, I'm here because I got a strange call yesterday. Strange? From your daughter-in-law, Sarah. My stomach tightened. Sarah called you?
Yes.
She told me you asked her to contact me, that you wanted to review your husband's will, that there were questions about the property distribution. I never asked her to do that. Mr. Thompson nodded slowly. I thought so. That's why I came. Margaret, that young woman asked very specific questions. She wanted to know if Daniel's 50% was transferable, if he could sell his share without your consent, if there was any rule that gave you complete power over the property. And what did you tell her? I told her that information is confidential, that I can only discuss it with you or your son in your presence. She got quite upset. He took a sip of coffee. Margaret, is something happening I should know about? I told him everything. The wedding, the yelling, the dinner, the photos in the office, the missing envelope. Mr. Thompson listened in silence, frowning. That envelope you mentioned, the one with your husband's letter.
Yes.
Do you know what it said? I know your husband asked me to prepare a document years ago, shortly before he died, but he never told me what it contained. He only asked me to certify his signature and keep it in a sealed yellow envelope. Do you have a copy?
No.
Your husband was very clear. Only one original. In your hands. He told me it was protection. Insurance. Against what? Mr. Thompson looked at me with tired eyes that have seen too many family tragedies. Against this, I suppose. Against the day someone tried to take what is yours. He left half an hour later. But not before warning me. Margaret, be careful. I've seen cases like this. When money and property are involved, people change. Even family. Daniel is not like that. Daniel maybe not. But Sarah? I didn't answer. Because I had no answer. That afternoon, I got a text from Daniel. Mom, Sarah wants to invite you to lunch tomorrow. Just the two of you. To get to know each other better. What do you say? Something in my gut told me not to go. But something stronger told me I needed to know what was happening. Of course. What time? 2:00. At the town restaurant. Ironic, wasn't it? I'll be there. The next day, I dressed carefully. Black pants, white shirt, simple jacket. The keys under my shirt as always. I arrived 5 minutes early. Sarah was already there, sitting at a table by the window, phone in hand, glass of white wine in front of her. She looked relaxed, confident, like a chess player who already knows how the game will end. Margaret, how punctual. Please sit. I sat. I ordered water. Thank you for coming, Sarah said, putting down her phone. I know things started badly between us. I want to fix that. Me too.
Good.
Because look, Margaret, I'm not your enemy. I know you think I came to take your son away, but that's not true. I came to love him, and that includes respecting his family. She sounded sincere, almost believable. I'm glad to hear that. And that's why I want to be honest with you. She leaned forward. Daniel is stressed. Very stressed. He feels trapped between you and me, and that's not fair to him. I've never asked him to choose. I know, but he feels like he has to, especially with the property issue. There it was. The real reason for lunch. The property issue. Margaret, we both know that property is huge, beautiful, full of potential. But it's also a burden. Maintaining it costs money, time, energy. Daniel tells me you do everything alone, that you don't accept help, that you hold on to something that's maybe too big for you. I took a deep breath, counted to 5. The property is my home, not a burden. Of course, it's your home. Nobody says otherwise. But think about it. You alone in that huge house. Without Daniel, without anyone, wouldn't it be easier to sell? Or rent? Or do something productive with it? Something productive like what? Like a boutique hotel, an event venue. I have contacts in the industry. We could do something incredible, modern, profitable. You'd receive money without having to worry about maintenance. And who would manage it? Sarah smiled. Well, I have experience in management. We could form a partnership. You provide the property. We provide the work. Shared profits. And the keys? Excuse me? The keys. Who would have them? Her smile faded for a second. Well, obviously we'd need complete access. To do renovations. To show the place to potential clients. So you would live there? We wouldn't necessarily live there, but we'd need full use of the property. It's the only way the business can work. I took a sip of water slowly, feeling how every piece of the puzzle fit together. And where would I live? Wherever you want. You could buy an apartment in the city. Something more comfortable. No stairs. Less work. At your age, Margaret, you should be enjoying life. Not killing yourself in a 19th century house. At your age. Those 3 words that say, you're old, you're useless, it's time to step aside. Was this your idea or Daniel's? It was both our idea. Daniel is worried about you. He's afraid something will happen to you there alone. That you'll fall down the stairs. That you'll get sick and nobody will be there to help. It's for your own good, Margaret. How thoughtful. Sarah didn't catch the sarcasm. Or didn't care. So, what do you say? Can we at least consider it? Talk to a builder? Look at the numbers?
No.
Her smile froze. No.
No, Sarah.
The property is not for sale. It's not available for business. It's not open to partnerships. It's my home. And it will stay my home until the day I decide otherwise. But Daniel is an owner too. Daniel owns 50% of the property. But I have complete control over its use and management. That's what my husband stated in the will. That's unfair.
No.
It's protection. Sarah put down her glass harder than necessary. Margaret, I don't want to sound rude, but you're being selfish. That property could change your son's life, your family's life, and you hold on to it like it's more important than us. It's not more important. It's different. The property is a legacy. You are temporary. She turned pale. Temporary? Marriages can end, Sarah. Businesses can fail. Promises can be broken. But the land? The land remains. I stood up, left some money on the table for my water. Thank you for the invitation. But I think we have nothing more to talk about. Margaret, wait. Give my son my best. Tell him when he wants to see me, he knows where to find me. I left the restaurant with my heart pounding but my legs steady. I got in my car, sat for a moment breathing. I took the keys from under my shirt, held them in my hand, cold, heavy, real. And at that moment, I knew the war had begun. Only this time, I wasn't going to give up. That night, as I was making tea in the kitchen, I heard a truck coming up the road. It was 11 at night. My heart raced. I thought of Daniel. Maybe he came to talk, to apologize, to tell me Sarah was wrong. But when I opened the door, it was Mr. Thompson's car. He got out quickly with a folder in his hand and a look I hadn't seen before. Margaret, forgive me for the hour, but you need to see this. What is it, Mr. Thompson? We went to the living room. He didn't sit. He placed the folder on the table carefully, like it contained something dangerous. After our conversation yesterday, I kept thinking about that document your husband asked me to certify. I went to the archive in my office. I looked through all the old files, and I found this. He opened the folder, pulled out a yellowed paper with my husband's handwriting. It's a copy, the only one I made without him knowing. I did it because your husband was very sick when he came to see me, and something in his tone made me think this document was important, that maybe you'd need it someday. I took the paper with shaking hands. It was a letter, handwritten, dated 3 weeks before my husband died. I started reading. Margaret, my love, if you're reading this, someone is trying to take the property from you. And if they're trying, it means I was right. 2 months ago, when I went to the hospital for my last tests, I met a man in the waiting room. An older man, sick like me. We started talking. He told me his story. He said he had an only son who he raised alone after his wife died. He gave him everything. Education, values, the complete family inheritance. But when his son got married, everything changed. The daughter-in-law started to manipulate him, little by little. First with kind words, then with ideas of improvement. Finally, she convinced him to sign a power of attorney. She told him it was to help with his medical procedures. The man signed, and 2 weeks later, his son and daughter-in-law sold his house. They put him in a nursing home. They kept everything. When he told me this, that man was crying. He told me, it wasn't my son who betrayed me. It was my manipulated son. But the result is the same. I died alone. Without my home. Without my dignity. Margaret, that story haunted me until my last night. And I understood I needed to protect you. Not from Daniel, but from whoever could change Daniel. That's why I wrote this letter. That's why I left the rules in the will the way I did. Not because I don't trust our son, but because I trust you. I trust you'll know how to recognize when intentions are pure and when they're poison disguised as progress. If anyone pressures you to hand over the keys, if anyone makes you feel old or incapable, if anyone tries to convince you the property is a burden, resist. Because that land is not just property. It's the backbone of our family. It's the place where our ancestors bled and dreamed. It's the only place in the world where our history has roots. And you, my love, are the guardian of that history. Don't let anyone, not even our son, convince you that you're an obstacle. You are the door, and you decide who enters. I love you. I've always loved you. And from wherever I am, I'll continue watching over you. Protect the keys. Protect the land. Protect yourself. Yours forever, Robert. When I finished reading, tears were falling on the paper. Thompson put a hand on my shoulder. Your husband was a wise man, Margaret. He already knew. He already knew this was going to happen. He didn't know exactly what, but he knew it was possible. That's why he protected you. I dried my tears. Mr. Thompson, what can I do? Legally, you're protected. The will is clear. Daniel cannot sell, rent, or change the property without your explicit and notarized consent. But he paused. The law protects property, Margaret. It doesn't protect hearts. What do you mean? I mean they can pressure you, manipulate you, make you feel guilty. They can even try to declare you mentally unfit to make decisions. I've seen cases like this. I felt a chill. They can do that. They can try. If they get a doctor to say you have dementia, mental problems, or any condition that makes you incompetent, they could request legal guardianship. But I'm perfectly fine. You know that. I know that. But in the hands of the right lawyers, with the right doctors. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. What should I do? First, keep this letter in a safe place. In a bank. With someone you trust. Not in the house. Second, go to your doctor. Request a complete examination. Physical and mental. Have him certify in writing that you're in full possession of your abilities. Third, he looked at me with sadness. Prepare for the worst. The worst? For Daniel to completely take his wife's side. He would never. Margaret, I've been a family lawyer for 40 years. And I can tell you something I learned. When a man has to choose between his mother and his bed, he almost always chooses the bed. The words hurt like a physical blow. But I knew he was right. Mr. Thompson left at midnight. I was alone in the living room with my husband's letter in my hands. I read it 3 more times. Each time, his voice became clearer in my mind. You are the guardian of that history. Don't let anyone convince you that you're an obstacle. You are the door. I stood up, walked to the office, opened the safe hidden behind my father's portrait. I stored the letter there with the original property documents, locked the door, touched the keys around my neck, and I made a decision. If they wanted a fight, they'd get a fight. But not with yelling, not with drama, not with scenes, with silence, with patience, with the same quiet strength my husband taught me when we took care of this land together. At 7 the next morning, I called my doctor, requested an urgent appointment for all possible tests. At 8, I called the bank, made an appointment to open a safety deposit box. At 9, my phone rang. It was Daniel. Mom, good morning. Son, Sarah told me what happened yesterday, that you were rude to her, that you insulted her. I didn't insult anyone. I just made clear the property is not for sale. Nobody said it was for sale. We just wanted to suggest an idea. A family business. Daniel, do you really think I need a business at my age? Do you really think I want to turn the home where you were raised into a hotel? You're not the only one who decides, Mom. I'm an owner of the property too, not of the legacy. That makes no sense. To you, maybe not, but to me it does. Silence. Heavy breathing. Sarah says you're being selfish, that you're holding on to the past, that you need help. Help. Yes, Mom. Professional help. Maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist, or a doctor, to help you let go. There it was. What Mr. Thompson warned me about. Professional help.
Doctor.
Mental incompetence. Daniel, do you really think I'm crazy?
No, Mom.
But I think you're lonely. That you've gotten trapped in that house with ghosts and memories. And that's not healthy. I am perfectly healthy. Then prove it. Come live with us for a while. Leave the property. Get out of there. And the keys? Leave the keys with the other things. For safety. So nobody enters while you're gone. I closed my eyes.
Took a deep breath. Counted to 10. No, Daniel. No.
I'm not leaving my house. I'm not leaving the keys. And I'm not going to keep arguing this with you. Then I don't know what else to do, Mom. I really don't know how to help you anymore. I don't need your help, son. I need your respect. I can't respect a decision that's hurting you. The only decision hurting me is yours. To choose a woman you barely know over the mother who raised you. You're starting again. It's always the same with you. Either I'm with you, or I'm against you. No, Daniel. Either you're with me, or you're with someone who wants to take everything I have. He hung up. The silence after the call was worse than the yelling. I sat in the kitchen for hours. I didn't cry. I had no more tears for this. I just felt a deep emptiness. Like when my husband died. Like when I understood I was alone in the world. But this time was different. This time I wasn't a widow. I was orphaned of a son. And that hurt in a way I never imagined. That afternoon, I went to the bank. Opened the safety deposit box. Stored copies of all important documents. Property deeds.
Will.
My husband's letter. The next day, I went to the doctor. Blood tests. Mental tests. Memory exams. Mrs. Margaret, you're perfectly healthy, the doctor said a week later. Physically and mentally. In fact, you have better health than many people 20 years younger. Can you give me that in writing? Of course. I stored the medical certificate with the other documents. And I waited. Because I knew this wasn't over. I knew Sarah wouldn't give up. And I knew my son, my boy, my Daniel, was lost in a place I could no longer reach him. The keys hung around my neck. And for the first time in my life, I felt their weight wasn't protection. It was loneliness. 3 weeks passed without hearing from Daniel. 3 weeks when my phone stayed silent. 3 weeks when every noise on the road made me run to the window hoping to see his truck. But it never came. Until that Thursday afternoon. I was in the garden trimming the rose bushes my mother planted 40 years ago when I heard the engine. Not just one truck.
2.
And a car. I took off my gloves. Wiped the sweat from my forehead. Daniel got out of the first truck. Sarah from the car. And 2 men with briefcases got out of the second truck. Lawyers by the look of them. My stomach tightened. Daniel, what's going on? He wouldn't look me in the eye. He walked toward me with stiff steps. Like a soldier following orders. Mom, we need to talk. Inside. Who are they? They're lawyers. Mr. Williams and Mr. Smith. They came to help us resolve the situation. What situation? Sarah stepped forward, smiling like she was arriving at a party. Margaret, don't be nervous. We just want to clear up some legal matters. Nothing serious. I didn't invite them in. Mom, please, Daniel said with a tired voice. Don't make this harder. Something in his tone chilled my blood. But I opened the door. We all went to the living room. The lawyers sat on the couch, Sarah in the main chair. Daniel stood near the window, looking outside, like he wanted to be anywhere else. I sat across from them, the keys under my shirt pressed against my chest. Lawyer Williams, a man in a gray suit with frameless glasses, opened his briefcase. Mrs. Margaret, good morning. I'm Lawyer Williams, legal representative of Mr. Daniel Taylor. We're here today because my client wishes to exercise his rights as co-owner of this property. He already knows his rights and his limitations. Precisely why we're here. He pulled out documents. We've reviewed your late husband's will, and although it's true you have management control of the property, there's a rule that allows the co-owner to request the division of assets if he considers the current management is decreasing the value of the estate. Decreasing? This property is in perfect condition. Physically, perhaps. But economically, he placed papers on the table. It's losing value. It generates no income. It has no productive use. And according to our calculations, the maintenance costs exceed any potential benefit. This is my home, not a business. Legally, ma'am, it's both. A private property with commercial value. And my client has the right to request that this value be protected. I looked at Daniel. He was still standing with his back to me, looking out the window. Daniel, did you ask for this? He didn't answer. Sarah did for him. Margaret, Daniel only wants what's best for everyone, including you. Look at this place. It's huge, old, hard to maintain. You're alone here. What if you get sick? If you fall? If something happens and nobody realizes for days? I have a phone. I have neighbors. You're 57 years old, Margaret. And even if you're healthy now, how many more years can you handle this? 5? 10? And then what? Will you let this property fall apart until it's worth nothing? It's worth more than you can understand. Not everything is measured in money. Lawyer Smith, younger with a smile that looked down on me, spoke up. Ma'am, nobody's questioning your emotional attachment. But we must be realistic. This property has a market value of approximately $3 million. If it were sold, it's not for sale. Or if it were rented for events, it could generate between $30,000 and $50,000 monthly. That's more than $500,000 a year. Money that could benefit the whole family. I'm not interested. Not even for your son's future? For your future grandchildren? The word grandchildren hit me like a fist. I looked at Sarah. She was smiling. She knew exactly which button she just pressed. Margaret, I'm 3 months pregnant, Sarah said softly. Daniel is going to be a father. You're going to be a grandmother. The world stopped.
What?
Daniel finally turned around. His eyes were red. It's true, Mom. That's why we need to think about the future. About providing for our child. About giving him stability. I didn't know. Why? Because you've been so busy fighting with us that you haven't noticed what's happening. Tears started burning my eyes. But I didn't let them fall. Congratulations, son. Really? Then understand, Mom. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about my child, your grandson. And he deserves to have parents who aren't stressed about money, who can give him education, opportunities, a future. And I'm preventing that? You're not preventing it. You're just making things harder than necessary. Lawyer Williams spoke again. Mrs. Margaret, my client is willing to reach an agreement. We don't want to go to court. We don't want to make this ugly. But if you don't cooperate, we'll have to request the forced division of assets from a judge. And in that process, many things can come to light. Things you might not want public. What things? Your age. Your condition of living alone. Your refusal to accept help. A judge could interpret that as stubborn behavior. They could question your capacity to make rational decisions. There it was. The threat Mr. Thompson warned me about. I have medical certificates that prove I'm in full possession of my abilities. Certificates you requested recently. which to a judge might seem suspicious. Like you knew you'd be questioned. Like you were preparing to defend yourself against something. I stood up. Enough. Everyone out of my house. Mom, I said out. My voice came out stronger than I expected. This is my house. And as long as it is, I decide who comes in and who leaves. Sarah also stood, her hands on her barely visible belly. Margaret, think about your grandson. Do you really want him to grow up knowing his grandmother preferred an old house over his future? I want him to grow up knowing his grandmother had dignity, that she didn't sell her soul or her history for money. It's not just money, Daniel yelled. It's my inheritance. It's what my father left me, and you're taking it from me. Your father left you more than property, Daniel. He left you values, principles, respect for what generations before you built. Those values don't pay the bills.
No.
But they let you sleep in peace. Daniel walked toward me. His face was red. His fists clenched. Give me the keys, Mom.
No.
Give me the damn keys. The scream echoed through the house. The lawyers looked uncomfortable. Sarah put a hand on Daniel's arm. Honey, calm down. It's not worth it. But he was out of control. I've been patient with you. I've tried to talk. I've tried to reason. But you don't listen. You never listen. It's always what you want, what you decide, what you need. And what about me? Don't I matter? You matter more than anything in the world. Then prove it. Give me what's mine. Give me my inheritance. Give me my future. I took off the necklace with the keys, held them in my hand. Daniel extended his hand, expecting them. But instead of giving them to him, I pressed them against my chest. These keys are not your future, Daniel. They're your past. And until you understand the difference, you won't have them. His face twisted.
Fear, rage, pain.
Something I couldn't identify. Then this is over. His voice came out cold, flat. I don't have a mother. The words pierced me like bullets. Daniel, a mother who loves her son more than a property, doesn't do this. So you choose. Either you're on my side or you don't have a son. Don't make me choose that. I already chose for both of us. He turned to the lawyers. Prepare the papers. We're going to court. I want the division of assets. I want to sell my part, and I want her out of that house. Daniel, please. You'll hear from our lawyers. He walked to the door. Let's go, Sarah. Sarah looked at me with something like pity, but behind her eyes, I saw victory. I'm sorry, Margaret. Really? They all left. The lawyers first. Then Sarah. Finally, Daniel. He didn't look back.
Didn't say goodbye.
Just got in his truck and drove away. I stood at the door with the keys in my hand, watching the 3 vehicles drive away up the dirt road. When the dust settled and the silence returned, I closed the door, walked to the living room, sat in the same chair where my husband used to sit and read the newspaper every morning. And there, finally, I let myself cry. I cried for my son, for the boy who used to hug me and tell me everything would be okay, for the man who was supposed to protect this legacy, not destroy it. I cried for the grandson who was about to be born, who would grow up without knowing me, without knowing where he came from, without understanding what his ancestors sacrificed for him to exist. I cried for my husband, for not being here to help me, for leaving me alone with such a heavy burden. And I cried for myself, for the woman who just lost her only son for defending what was right. But when I finished crying, I dried my tears, stood up, and hung the keys around my neck again, because there was something Daniel didn't understand, something Sarah would never understand. Mothers lose battles. We lose children. We lose years of our lives. But we don't lose our dignity. And that night, alone in that huge house, surrounded by silence and memories, I understood something. Sometimes the greatest love you can give is to let go, even if it tears you apart, even if it kills you, even if it leaves you alone. Because children are not property. but dignity is. And I had chosen mine. 2 months later, I received the court papers. Lawsuit for division of assets. Request for forced sale. Arguments about poor management and property deterioration. Mr. Thompson reviewed them with me in the kitchen. Margaret, this is going to be long. Maybe years. And expensive. Can we win? Legally, yes. The will is clear. But emotionally, he looked at me sadly. We already lost. He was right. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the porch looking at the stars, listening to the silence of the land. And then I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I called Mr. Thompson. I want to make a new will. Are you sure? Completely. I went to his office. I stated my last wishes in a firm voice. Margaret Taylor, widow of Robert, in full use of my mental abilities, declare the following. The property shall remain under my management as long as I live. Upon my death, the complete property shall pass to a family trust that cannot be sold, divided, or changed for 50 years. My son Daniel shall receive 50% of the profits generated by the property if it's rented for cultural, educational, or historical events. Never for private commercial purposes. The other 50% shall be managed by a foundation that protects historical American properties. If my son attempts to contest this will or sell his share, he'll lose all his rights. And his percentage will go entirely to the foundation. The keys to the property will be delivered to the director of the foundation. This is my will, and it's final. Mr. Thompson looked at me for a long time. Margaret, do you know what this means? It means nobody will win this war. Not him, not me, but the land will. I signed the documents, had them notarized,
Sealed them.
and I went home in peace for the first time in months. 2 weeks later, Daniel found out.
I don't know how.
Maybe Mr. Thompson told him. Maybe town gossip. He called me at midnight.
Drunk. Crying.
How could you do this to me, Mom? How could you take away my inheritance? I didn't take it from you, Daniel. I protected it from yourself. You're a damn selfish woman.
No, sweetheart.
I'm a mother who loved you too much to let you destroy what your father built. He hung up, didn't call back. Months passed. The lawsuit moved slowly. I continued living on the property, tending the rose bushes, feeding the chickens, watching the sunsets, alone.
But at peace.
Because I understood something my husband always knew. The land doesn't need you to defend it with yelling. It defends itself with time, with patience, with the silent justice only nature knows. And I just had to wait. The keys hung around my neck. They no longer felt heavy. They were just keys. And I was free. 2 years passed. 2 years when I lived on the property, taking care of the land, waiting without expecting. The lawsuit had stalled. Daniel's lawyers couldn't do anything against my new will. It was legal. Final.
Perfect.
Mr. Thompson visited me every month with updates. Always the same. They're still trying, but they have no case. I would nod.
Pour coffee. Continue with my life.
One October afternoon, Mr. Thompson arrived with a different look on his face. He didn't bring his briefcase. Just a worried expression. Margaret, there's something you need to know. What happened? Daniel and Sarah separated. The world stopped for a second. When? 3 months ago. The divorce was finalized last week. And the baby? Sarah kept full custody. She went to live in Texas with her family. Daniel has supervised visits every 2 weeks. I sat down slowly. My legs wouldn't hold me. What happened? Mr. Thompson sighed. What always happens with women like that? When she didn't get what she wanted from you, she started looking elsewhere. She met a hotel owner.
Rich.
Older. No family. Daniel found her with him. In the apartment they shared. I felt a mixture of pain and sadness, so deep I didn't know what to say. How is he? Bad, Margaret. Very bad. He lost his wife.
His son. His job.
Everything.
His job.
He resigned. Or was fired. I don't know for sure. But he's living in a cheap motel near the city. Alone. Drinking too much, they tell me. Tears started falling without me being able to stop them. And why hasn't he looked for me? Pride?
Shame?
Maybe both. Mr. Thompson left half an hour later. I was left in the kitchen with cold coffee and a broken heart. My son was destroyed. Alone.
Lost.
And I couldn't do anything because he built that hell with his own hands. 3 weeks later, while shopping in town, I saw her.
Sarah.
She was at a fancy restaurant, sitting outside with a man in a suit. Gray hair, expensive watch, a predator's smile. She was laughing, flirting, shining like nothing happened, like she hadn't destroyed my son, like the baby who was supposedly her reason for taking the property didn't even exist. She saw me. Our eyes met. For a second, her smile wavered. But then she recovered. She waved at me like we were friends. I didn't wave back. I just kept walking. Because I understood something at that moment. Sarah never loved Daniel. Never loved the baby. She only loved what they could give her. And when that source dried up, she looked for another. That night, sitting on the porch, I thought about everything that happened. The wedding, the yelling, the threats, the lawyers, the last time I saw my son. And I realized I didn't win this war. But neither did Sarah. Because she got money.
Yes.
She got a new man.
Yes.
But she lost something she'll never get back.
Peace.
Because people like her are never satisfied. They always need more. They're always looking for the next opportunity, the next man, the next deal. And someday, when she's old and alone, she'll understand you can't buy what truly matters. My son also paid his price. He lost his family, his dignity, his future. But at least he still had time to learn,
To change. To return if he chose to.
A month later in December, the doorbell rang at 6 in the morning. I opened the door. It was Daniel.
Thin.
Messy beard, red eyes, wrinkled clothes. But it was my son. Mom. His voice broke. I'm sorry. He didn't say anything else. There was no need. I hugged him. And he cried like when he was a boy and fell off his bicycle. He cried for everything he lost. For everything he destroyed. For everything he'd never get back. And I held him. Because that's what mothers do. We didn't say anything that morning. We just sat in the kitchen, drank coffee, watched the sunrise through the window. The keys are still yours, Mom, he finally said. They always were yours. I know, sweetheart. I know. I was a fool. I was an idiot. She convinced me you were the problem. And I believed her. I know. How did you know? How did you know she was like that? I touched the keys around my neck. Your father taught me to recognize when someone loves the land and when they only love what they can get from it. Daniel nodded, tears still falling. I've lost everything, Mom. My son, my marriage,
My job.
my dignity. Not everything.
You still have me.
And you still have time to build something new, something real. I don't know if I can. I didn't know either when your father died, but I did. And you can too. He stayed on the property that day, and the next, and the next. We didn't talk about the lawsuit. We didn't talk about Sarah. We didn't talk about the keys. We just worked together like before. Fixed fences. Fed animals. Watched sunsets. And slowly, my son began to return. Not the man who married Sarah, but the boy who once promised to take care of this land. 5 years have passed since that morning Daniel knocked on my door asking for forgiveness. Today, I'm 62 years old. My son is 38. And my grandson, whom I finally met 6 months ago, is 4.5 years old. His name is Robert, like his grandfather. He doesn't live with me. He lives with Sarah in Texas. But every month when Daniel goes to pick him up for his visits, he brings him to the property. And when that boy runs through these same fields where his father ran, when he climbs the same trees, when he sits with me on the porch to drink hot chocolate, I understand why it was worth resisting. Daniel lives in town now. He works at a repair shop. He earns little. He lives in a small apartment. But he's sober. He's in therapy. And he's learning to be the man his father wanted him to be. The lawsuit ended 3 years ago. Daniel's lawyers dropped the case when he returned. Mr. Thompson helped me change the will one last time. When I die, the property will belong to Daniel completely. No trusts. No foundations. But only if he proves for 10 consecutive years he can take care of it without selling it. That he understands its value beyond money. If he fails, everything goes to Robert when he turns 25. Do you think I can do it, Mom? Daniel asked when we signed the new documents. I don't know, sweetheart, but I want to give you the chance to try. Sarah remarried last year to that hotel owner she met. They live in a modern mansion. They travel the world. They post perfect photos online. Sometimes I see those photos and wonder if she's happy. I don't think so, because I've learned happiness doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less. And she will always need more. I saw her one more time, 2 years ago when she came to drop off Robert for summer vacation. She got out of her imported car in designer clothes. Dark sunglasses, hiding more than the sun. She looked perfect as always. But when she took off her glasses to talk to me, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Emptiness. Margaret, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The property looks good. You're still here. I'm still here. It must be quiet. Being alone. Without worries. It is quiet, I said, because I am where I belong. Something in my tone made her blink. I'm also where I belong, she said quickly. My husband and I are very happy. Very successful. We just opened our 3rd hotel. I'm glad to hear that. Awkward silence. Robert ran toward me shouting, Grandma, with that pure joy only children have. I hugged him, lifted him up,
Spun him around.
When I put him down, I saw Sarah looking at us with a strange expression, almost like envy. Take good care of him, she said, getting in her car. I'll be back in 2 weeks. She left without saying goodbye to Robert, without hugging him, without telling him she loved him. Because some people never learn that love isn't bought. It's built with time, with presence, with sacrifice. My son is learning it. Slowly, painfully, with mistakes. But he's learning. A month ago, while we were working in the garden together, he told me something I'll never forget. Mom, now I understand why Dad left you the keys. It wasn't to control me. It was to protect me from myself. I touched the keys still hanging around my neck. Your father was always wiser than me.
No, Mom.
You were wise together. And I was the fool who took too long to understand it. I hugged him.
My boy.
My man. My son. It's never too late to learn, sweetheart. Today, as I think about all this, sitting on the same porch where I've spent half my life, I see Robert playing with the chickens. I see Daniel fixing the fence by the corral. I see the trees my grandfather planted. I see the old walls my great-grandfather built. And I understand something that took me 62 years to grasp. Life is not about winning or losing. It's about protecting what we love, even when it costs us everything. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to let go. It's about understanding that true love doesn't demand. It gives. But it also sets limits. I was once called selfish, stubborn, a bitter old woman holding on to the past. Maybe they were right about some things, but they were also wrong about the most important thing. I wasn't holding on to the past. I was protecting the future of that child who now runs free on this land, the future of my son who's learning to be a man, the future of all the generations that will come after me. The keys that hang around my neck are no longer just metal and rust. They're history. They're resistance. They're proof that a woman alone with no weapon but her dignity can defend an entire world. Sarah got her rich businessman, her mansion, her perfect life. But I have something she'll never have.
Peace.
The peace of knowing I did the right thing, that I didn't sell out, that I didn't betray those who came before or those who will come after. And that peace is priceless. My name is Margaret. I'm 62 years old. And this was the story of how I lost my son to save us both. The keys are still with me, and they'll stay here until the right moment comes. Because now I know something I didn't know 5 years ago. The right moment is not when I decide it. It is when my son is ready to receive them. And that day, I'll rest in peace, knowing the land that saw me born, that saw me cry, that saw me resist, will be in the right hands.